You've seen it 100 times. The billionaire with the plain wife, the tech mogul whose partner looks remarkably average, the hedge fund manager married to a woman who would never turn heads at a party. And you think, he could have anyone. Why her? You assume it's a mistake. Or he's not really attracted to her. Or maybe she has some hidden quality you can't see in photographs. But here's the truth that will reframe everything you think you know about wealth, attraction, and marriage. Rich men aren't failing to get attractive wives. They're succeeding at getting something else entirely. Today, we're going to break down the research on assortative mating, the trophy wife myth, and what wealthy men actually optimize for when choosing a life partner. This isn't what you expect, and it explains a pattern you've noticed but never understood. Let's start with the research that dismantles the entire trophy wife narrative. In 2014, sociologist Elizabeth McClintock at the University of Notre Dame published a landmark study in the American Sociological Review titled Beauty and Status: The Illusion of Exchange in Partner Selection. Using a nationally representative sample of young couples where both partners were interviewed and rated for physical attractiveness, McClintock tested whether the beauty for money exchange actually happens in American marriages. Her finding was unequivocal. The trophy wife stereotype is largely a myth. I find that handsome men partner with pretty women and successful men partner with successful women, McClintock reported. So, on average, high-status men do have better-looking wives, but this is because they themselves are considered better-looking. Wait, read that again. Rich men do have better-looking wives on average, but not because they're trading money for beauty. They have better-looking wives because rich men themselves tend to be better-looking than poor men. Why? McClintock explains, wealthy men are less likely to be overweight and more likely to afford braces, nice clothes, and trips to the dermatologist. The research shows that attractive people earn more money. Multiple studies in the Journal of Applied Psychology and the National Bureau of Economic Research have documented this beauty premium in earnings. Attractive people are more likely to be hired, promoted, and paid more. So what looks like a money for beauty exchange is actually matching. Attractive, successful people marry other attractive, successful people. The match is on both dimensions simultaneously. McClintock's most striking finding: when she controlled for matching on attractiveness, the evidence for beauty status exchange completely disappeared. In the 543 married couples in her sample, there was absolutely no evidence of exchanging looks for money. Beautiful women are not, in fact, leveraging their looks to secure upward mobility through marriage. Social class barriers in the marriage market are relatively impermeable. So the first answer to why do rich men marry less attractive women is, they don't, at least not systematically. They marry women of similar attractiveness to themselves. We just notice the cases that fit our stereotype and ignore the ones that don't. But there's a deeper pattern here that explains why truly wealthy men, the billionaires and business titans, often do end up with wives who seem plain by conventional standards. Let's talk about what economists call assortative mating. Research from the National Bureau of Economic Research and Studies published in the American Economic Review show that people increasingly marry others who are similar to themselves across multiple dimensions: education, socioeconomic background, religion, and yes, physical attractiveness. Jeremy Greenwood and colleagues analyzed U.S. Census data from 1960 to 2005 and found that assortative mating has become stronger over time. The correlation between spouses' education levels has increased substantially. College graduates increasingly marry other college graduates. High earners marry other high earners. This sorting has measurable effects on inequality. If couples in 2005 had matched randomly by education instead of assortatively, the Gini coefficient measuring income inequality would have dropped from 0.43 to 0.34. Assortative mating accounts for a significant portion of household income inequality. Now apply this to the ultra-wealthy. A truly rich man, someone with $100 million or more, didn't usually get there by accident. He likely has exceptional intelligence, extreme conscientiousness, unusual risk tolerance, and the ability to work 80-hour weeks for years. He likely went to elite schools. He moves in elite social circles. Where does he meet women? At Harvard Business School, at Stanford, at Goldman Sachs, at the tech company where he's a founder, at charity galas for causes that require $10,000 tickets to attend. The women he encounters are filtered by the same selection pressures that filtered him. They're likely highly educated, professionally accomplished, and from similar socioeconomic backgrounds. These women may or may not be conventionally beautiful, but they share his intellectual capacity, his ambition, his social class markers, and his worldview. Now here's the crucial point. When a wealthy man chooses a life partner, he's not running a beauty pageant. He's making a strategic decision about who will share his life, raise his children, manage his household, navigate his social world, and potentially outlive him by decades. Research on mate preferences reveals that while men do value physical attractiveness more than women do on average, both sexes prioritize different traits for short-term versus long-term relationships. A 2024 study published in Evolutionary Behavioral Sciences confirmed that men rate physical attractiveness, health, and sexual desirability significantly higher than women do. But the same study found that for long-term partners, traits like intelligence, emotional stability, and conscientiousness become increasingly important for both sexes. A study examining partner preferences across sexual orientations found that intelligence and kindness were rated as the most valued traits overall, regardless of whether someone was choosing a partner for short-term attraction or long-term commitment. And here's the counterintuitive finding. Research by Gignac and colleagues showed that intelligence peaks in attractiveness at the 90th percentile, around an IQ of 120. People who are smarter than 99% of the population are actually rated as slightly less attractive as partners than those at the 90th percentile. There's an optimal zone. Too little intelligence and the person seems incompatible. Too much and they seem socially awkward or difficult to relate to. Now consider what a wealthy man is actually optimizing for. He doesn't need a trophy. He already has all the status markers he could want. His cars, his houses, his portfolio, his social position, these all signal success far more effectively than a beautiful wife. What he needs is a partner who can function in his world. Can she hold a conversation with his business partners? Can she navigate complex social dynamics at high-stakes events? Can she manage a large household with staff? Can she raise children with the values and capabilities to handle wealth responsibly? Can she be a strategic advisor, a confidant, someone whose judgment he trusts? These requirements filter for intelligence, education, social sophistication, and emotional stability far more than they filter for physical beauty. A study in Norway examining hypergamy, the tendency for women to marry up, found that even in one of the most gender-equal societies in the world, there's strong matching on socioeconomic status. The research showed that women with higher earnings potential marry men with higher earnings potential. The sorting happens on education, income, and wealth, not on a beauty for resources exchange. Data from Switzerland showed that wealthy individuals show strong assortative mating at the extremes of the wealth distribution. A woman in the top quintile of wealth is twice as likely to marry a man from the same quintile than random chance would predict. This isn't romantic, it's strategic. People marry within their social class because that's who they know, that's who they trust, and that's who shares their values and lifestyle expectations. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What about the genuinely stunning woman married to the visibly unattractive billionaire? These couples do exist. Donald Trump and Melania, for example, are often cited as the archetypal trophy wife marriage. McClintock acknowledges this. Donald Trump and his third wife, Melania Trump, may very well exemplify the trophy wife stereotype. But these marriages are rare, and they often represent second or third marriages, not first ones. By the time a wealthy man is on his third marriage, his calculus may have shifted. He's already had children, already built his empire, already proven himself. Now he might optimize for different things. There's also a selection effect in what we observe. The billionaire with the stunning wife makes headlines. The billionaire with the plain wife goes unnoticed. Our perception is skewed by visibility bias. But let's go deeper. Why might a wealthy man actively prefer a less conventionally attractive wife? First, consider threat management. An extremely beautiful wife attracts attention from other men constantly. Every event, every party, every business dinner involves managing the reality that other men are evaluating your wife as a potential mate. Research on mate guarding shows that men with more attractive wives expend more effort on mate retention behaviors. They're more vigilant, more jealous, more anxious about potential rivals. A wealthy man already has enough complexity in his life. Managing a beautiful wife's constant attention from other men may simply not be worth the additional stress. Second, consider trust. Why is she with you? If a man is with an extremely beautiful woman, and he's not particularly attractive himself, this question haunts the relationship. Is she there for love or for money? Would she stay if the money disappeared? With a woman of similar attractiveness to himself, this question largely disappears. The match makes intuitive sense to both parties. Neither is obviously outkicking their coverage. This creates a more stable foundation. The wealthy man can trust that his partner is with him for reasons beyond access to resources, because if resources were all that mattered, she could presumably do better in the looks department. Third, consider longevity. Beauty fades. Everyone knows this. A marriage that begins at age 30 might last 50 years. The stunning 25-year-old becomes a 75-year-old, as does everyone else. Wealthy men thinking strategically about marriage are thinking about decades, not months. What will this relationship look like in 30 years? Intelligence doesn't fade the same way. Education doesn't fade. Shared values don't fade. Social compatibility doesn't fade. Optimizing for beauty is optimizing for a depreciating asset. Optimizing for intelligence, character, and compatibility is optimizing for stability. Fourth, consider children. Research on mate preferences shows that when people think about long-term partners, they weight factors like intelligence more heavily. This makes evolutionary sense. You're not just choosing a companion, you're choosing the genetic contribution to your offspring. A wealthy man thinking about legacy is thinking about children who can handle wealth, navigate complex social situations, and potentially continue building on what he's created. Intelligence and conscientiousness are more heritable than beauty in terms of their long-term impact on life outcomes. An intelligent, educated wife with strong social skills may produce children better equipped for the challenges of inherited wealth than a beautiful wife without those traits. Finally, consider homogamy. A 2025 study in PLOS1 examined over 33 million marriages in England from 1837 to 2021. The researchers found that there was never significant hypergamous marriage by women during this entire period. The average status of women's fathers equaled that of their husbands' fathers throughout nearly 2 centuries of data. The strongest force in partner selection is similarity, not exchange. Similarity. People marry people like themselves. Rich marry rich. Educated marry educated. Attractive marry attractive. When these dimensions don't perfectly align, the matching still happens, just on different combinations of traits. So why does the wealthy man marry the plain wife? Because she's not plain to him. She's brilliant. She's accomplished. She went to the same schools, knows the same people, shares the same references and values and expectations for life. She's high status in the dimensions that matter in his world, even if she doesn't match what random observers consider attractive. And perhaps most importantly, she's similar to him. She's his match, his equal, his partner in a world that most people will never understand. The trophy wife myth persists because it flatters both men's fantasies about what wealth could buy and women's hopes about what beauty could secure. But the data tells a different story. Wealthy men marry women like themselves. And for most wealthy men, like themselves means intelligent, educated, socially sophisticated, and from similar backgrounds. Not models, partners. That's not a failure to optimize. It's the most strategic optimization of all. In the next video, we'll explore the reverse question. Why do some beautiful women end up with average-looking men? And what the research says about female hypergamy in the modern dating market. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember, what looks like settling might actually be selecting for something you can't see from the outside. Let me leave you with one more framework that ties this all together. There's a concept in economics called revealed preferences. It's the idea that people's true preferences are revealed by their choices, not by what they say they prefer. Men might say they want the most beautiful woman they can get. They might fantasize about models and actresses. They might swipe right on every attractive photo. But when it comes time to actually choose a life partner, when they're making the most consequential decision of their adult lives, their revealed preferences tell a different story. Wealthy men choose partners who can navigate their world, who understand their pressures, who can be genuine equals in the complex game of maintaining and building wealth across generations. These preferences aren't about settling or failing. They're about optimizing for a different objective function than casual observers assume. The young man optimizes for beauty because that's what signals value in his current social environment. The wealthy man optimizes for partnership because he's already achieved everything that beauty could signal. He doesn't need a status symbol, he needs a teammate. And here's the final uncomfortable truth. The women who are most likely to become wives of wealthy men aren't the ones trying to be trophy wives. They're the ones who became wealthy, educated, and accomplished on their own. They're not trading beauty for access. They're matching across multiple dimensions with men who are their genuine peers. The beautiful woman trying to leverage her looks into a rich husband is often disappointed. Research shows that social class barriers in the marriage market are relatively impermeable. Beauty alone rarely breaches them, but the accomplished woman who happens to be in the same social circles as wealthy men, who went to the same schools, who works in the same industries, she has a real path to that marriage. Not because she traded anything, but because she matched. That's the secret the trophy wife myth obscures. Marriage among the wealthy isn't an exchange, it's a merger. And mergers happen between equals, not between a buyer and a product. The rich man with the plain wife made exactly the choice his values and circumstances dictated. You might not understand it from the outside, but he wasn't optimizing for what you think he was, and that's precisely why he's rich in the first place. The next time you see a wealthy man with an average wife, don't wonder what went wrong. Wonder what you're not seeing. Wonder what qualities she has that made her the winning candidate in a selection process you weren't invited to observe. Wonder what she provides that no amount of physical beauty could replace. And consider that maybe, just maybe, the wealthy understand something about value that the rest of us are still learning. Beauty is a signal. But signals only matter when you need them. When you've already won the game, you stop collecting trophies. You start collecting things that actually matter.